Hello and welcome to the Bold Black Girls Podcast. I'm Aries.
And I am Kim.
And today we got a pretty juicy episode, right? Yeah. We got a lot going on and a very special guest. You doing all right? First of all, let me check in on you.
I'm good. Good week.
Good week. Good week.
Still hanging in there. Still healthy.
Thank God.
COVID free.
Yeah.
Allergies. What about you?
I'm doing good. I'm same here. I'm just maintaining, and trying to keep it together. So
you look healthy.
Do I look healthy, girl?
I see you've been getting your walks in.
I've been getting my walks in. I'm trying not to, put too much on it, but I do. I said I was like, I need to do at least 4 miles. I mean, not 4 miles. 4 days a week. I want to do 2 miles. So I did Thursday and Friday, and then I did yesterday. Saturday and Sunday, and we'll see what happens tomorrow. I might end up continuing because I really feel like it does give me more energy when I start my day with that. It's actually been giving me more energy throughout the day.
Correct. It sets the precedence before God, first God,
of course.
So I do 2 miles a day now. Okay. I've been doing it since June.
Good. See, it's making me feel good. I can listen to podcasts, or typically I'm with the boys, and that's a good time for us to talk, about different things. And then Saturday and Sunday, I was like, I miss my partners. I'm used to walking.
Well, you can always come join me at boot camp.
I'm cool.
Right. You're more of the yoga.
Yes. I was like, the way as hot as it's been, I can go in the backyard and do all my 26 postures for Bikram right there. It's like a sauna.
Listen, I told somebody, I said, we don't even need the sauna. The sauna is outside.
It is real out here. So I've been going earlier and earlier because it's just like you can't, by 9 o'clock, it's 85 degrees. Okay. So
you're right.
You got to get out there early a little bit.
But, I look at it like this: more heat, more sweat. The only thing that I've been entangled in is my shaper. So I got entangled in that, trying to get out of that after I went walking.
Girl, and I've been making sure I stay hydrated while, before I go.
Yes.
Because that heat is no joke. The other day when me and the boys were walking, we walked over by where my mom lives, and we stopped at her house to get water because mom was like, I'm hot. I'm like, So we went to her house and got some water, then we kept going.
Refresh, huh?
Mm-hmm. So I'm glad you're doing well.
Ditto.
And we do have a special guest today. So
exciting.
I know, right? It was
I would say it's right on time because we've been having these episodes about social injustices, right? So this is the perfect time.
Yes, we needed to kind of do this because we've been talking. We don't know. We just regular people, right. trying to piece all this stuff together. We will be joined by Lee Merritt. He's a national civil rights attorney, social justice activist. He's really dedicated his life to fighting for the victims of police brutality and hate crimes and all these things. Some of the cases you may be familiar with, Ahmaud Arbery, Tatiana Jefferson, Botham John,
many more others that
Jordan Edwards. I mean, there's so many that it's almost sad, that he and his his family they're along this ride with him, right? So just imagine. So yes, we are joined by him today, and we're just gonna get right into that episode.
Black is a vibe. Is my sponsor. Black is a vibe.
I like that. Where'd you get that from?
Somebody sent it to me in the mail. The folks who started Black is a Vibe sent it to me.
We're gonna send you a Bold Black Girl shirt too, so you can wear that.
please. Now I want to.
All right, so we have today with us Lee Merritt. If you have not heard his name, you have not been watching the news with anything regarding kind of this policing situation, this racial injustice, all these things that have been brought to light with all the various cases really over the last probably 5 years or so. Your name has kind of been attached with a lot of different people like Van Crump and Darrell Washington and all the others that have been fighting for these families. So we first just want to say thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And, obviously me and Kim, we've been kind of, as a lot of this started, we started talking about some of these cases a little bit. We're not, lawyers, so we just are kind of giving our opinion and thoughts on everything that's been going on. And we see you out there. So we wanted to make sure to bring you on to share a little bit of insight on kind of what we as regular everyday people could be doing, here. So Kim, did you want to kick us off?
Yes, I'll kick us off. So Lee, we publish our podcast weekly, and it seems as though every time we're given a weekly update, it's a social injustice issue, and you're behind it. So we know you have covered some cases here in Texas, and you're doing some outside of Texas. So what are some of those cases that you are currently working on, and what barriers have you been coming up against when you're fighting for these families?
So this morning I had a chance to spend a little time in the comment section. I don't get to do that generally on social media. And so someone, I think a well-meaning sort of academic, was like, Lee, you need to stop calling this a genocide. Because, when I went before, the United States Congress, I called what was going on a genocide. And they said, genocide has a definition. You can't just throw it around, right?
Exactly.
It means you're intentionally trying to kill a specific race of people. Or a region of people or something like that, right? And I think by the common definition, what you just said, where you're just like, it seems like every week we get on and there's another body.
Literally.
And I've started posting recently cases just from this past year when nobody was paying attention. And so you see these faces, some of them, if you've been following me for years now, the faces are familiar. A lot of them, even if you have been following me, you just get lost in the faces. Like, is it Darius Tarver, Michael Dean, or Breonna Taylor? Like, hold on, I know Breonna, right?
Or Tiana Jefferson.
Yeah, I know a Tatiana, and for a lot of people around the country, we're just introducing a Tatiana Jefferson. They're like, hold on, what happened? Like, they're just seeing that video. And that was almost a year ago. And so there's so many stories I couldn't even begin to share with people. It would wipe them out. And so we're trying to, everybody has stood up all around the country to say justice for George Floyd, right? And so in the regions where they're saying that, because mayors are saying it, police chiefs are saying it, right? They're saying it when they have their own George Floyds in their communities. So we're trying to encourage everybody. And when you say, what can average people do? Like, find your local issue, your person, right? Your persons. Know about Margarita Brooks here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. She was just out walking her dog, fell asleep in a park. And a store owner thought it was a black woman, turned out not to be a black woman, it was a white woman, but thought it was a black woman. Reported it, called the cops. There's a black woman, probably a junkie, sleeping in front of my building. I'm scared. He says, a black woman over there, I have it all on tape. There's a black woman over there. He goes over and she has a puppy, a 6-month-old puppy with her. The puppy sees the cop approach and starts moving towards her. She's woke. She's just sitting there. And he says, are you going to get your puppy, man? Pulls out his gun and shoots at the dog and kills Margarita.
Wow.
And her father's a fire chief in Arlington.
Oh, my God.
Right? And so there's just, there's so many stories that now, people wonder, how's this movement going to end? It's going to end with you doing something in your community, right? It's not going to be, Trump who will pass a law or Congress, they're dragging their feet. It's going to be you saying, every case is Jordan Edwards. DFW stood up for Jordan Edwards. They made sure they got some form of justice. Every case is Botham Jean because they stood up for Botham Jean. Right. But if you're O'Shea Terry,
right.
Which is, you're not perfect because and I mean, it's a good thing that Jordan and Botham lived exemplary lives. That's not the reason they should have gotten justice,
right.
Exactly.
And so there's so many more cases in the area of names that people just never say. This is the time to say, all right, justice for George Floyd, who we all accept wasn't perfect, and we're done with that. He was a human being who shouldn't have been murdered like so many other people in front of us.
Yeah, because it seems like you got to be like perfect in order for people
to
be
pull everything.
Yeah, for them. Yeah, they're gonna look at every single thing. It's sad because like I joke with Kim about stuff. I'll be like, if something ever happened to me, make sure don't nobody find nothing in here. nothing crazy, because that's literally what happens every time they're going to attack your character. And you even call it out. A lot of times you'd be like, get ready, because they're about to
Here it
start
comes. That's
saying
right.
stuff. Now, you've been doing a lot of rallies and being at the protests and out speaking and things like that. And something that you've been saying a lot about is, people power, political power, economic power. I've been hearing you kind of, it's becoming a chant, of yours, of what we need to be doing, right? So, like, what does that look like as far as an action for us? I know, voting, we've been talking about defunding the police and qualified immunity and all that, but like for the average person that's kind of just now woke, right? Like, hey, we need to do something here, and we can do something individually. Like, what is that first step, and like, what does that look like in real life?
So I think in American society, because we're the most litigious society in world history, we believe in like rules and laws. So if we want to change things, and this is unique in world history, if we want to change things, we always think to change the laws. Other people who want to start a revolution, they're just like, why don't we just kill the people in charge, right?
Right.
But Americans, even revolutionary Americans, think, hey, how do we change the laws and make the laws work for us? We'll keep their system, but how do we make the laws work for us? So the law says, the American law says, they're foundational documents. And I think in order to gain actual change, you have to take a historical perspective. Know where you are in history, not just in the moment, right? So in history, the document says, the one that they put together says that governments derive their power from the consent of the governed, right? So if you, as the people, right, if you don't give your consent, then it's an invalid law, right? And that's the essence of civil disobedience. They say, I heard this law, I get it. You think that you can shoot us because you're scared, and that's what the law says.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like that law, right? I don't accept that law. Right?
If you feel like you're in danger, you can do these things.
Yeah. I do not consent to that law. So that's what a rebellion is. It says, hold up, we don't consent to this. I don't care if you do say it was justifiable when you kill. Today's Antoine Rose's birthday. I know this may not air today, but he was a 17-year-old kid on his way to college who ran from the police. It was reasonable for him to run from the police. His friend had done something terrible a moment sooner, so he wanted to get away. And a cop shot him in his back 3 times, killed him.
And that's like what you tell your kids, like if somebody does something, get away, like go away as fast as possible. And even in that, it's like, it's not enough.
Right. So they shot him in his back, tried to make a criminal out of him, and went to the trial, and they acquitted the officer who did it, right? And it's because the law says, right, that was legal. He was a fleeing felon at the time. He was with his friend. His friend had done something illegal. He had reasonable suspicion to believe that the kid may have done something illegal. He had it, but whatever.
So should we be saying, okay, making sure that we're up on it when it go to the city council meetings? Like,
that's exactly it. So when we say people power, it's you take over the jury, because there's something even in the jury pool, and Dallas actually has mastered it. Dallas did a national course on how to get justice in Botham Jean's case. What Amy Geiger did to Botham Jean is technically legal, right? She, if we accept her version of the facts, which is the only facts that we had, she accidentally wandered into the wrong apartment. She unreasonably ignored all the signs, right? But accidentally walked into the wrong apartment, found someone there that she believed to be an intruder. She feared for her life, happened to have her gun. Any citizen in America can get in there and shoot the person, right? But what in reality happened was she broke into his home and shot him. And stuff like this happens to us all the time. We get killed in our homes by cops all the time. So DFW said, nah, this sounds a little too familiar. I don't care what her excuse was this time. And it's something called jury nullification. The jury just said, I hear what you're saying about the law. Even the judge in this case, and this is the tricky part, even the judge in this case said, I am not going to let the testimony go before the jury from a Black police officer that Texas Ranger David Armstrong, I'm not going to let the evidence go before the jury that was perfectly legal in his opinion, right? Because that's what he wanted to
It was just
introduce.
opinion. Okay.
And she said, no, it's up to the people to determine what's legal and what's illegal. It's up to their consent. And Dallas gets to say whether or not they believe that behavior is legal. And I believe that was consistent with the law. The judge wasn't doing anything extraordinary. She was saying he was going too far above his qualifications to give an opinion. And that predominantly Black jury returned a guilty verdict and, a light sentence. That predominantly Black jury has people in there who are unreasonably sympathetic with Amber Geiger's side, in my opinion. But, some people might say that's Dallas folks.
I agree with you.
That's a whole nother conversation.
I was
feel
just
like
ready to say. And probably a plug to people that if you have jury duty, go and attend. Don't try and get out of it because you might be able to help a case, right?
Yeah.
And I know
because it was real people in that jury. Like I'm reluctant about what to say about them because I appreciate them engaging in their civic duty, and I don't want to be the lawyer who beat up on them on TV when they saw all the evidence. I would have arrived to a different conclusion than they did in terms of their sympathy for this racist woman when they saw all the evidence. I think they sentenced her as if race wasn't even a factor in this murder, and it's like it's the reason that both of John is dead. This unreasonable fear of Blackness.
That case got a lot of criticism for those same, the sympathy that a lot of people showed there. So
even the judge.
Yeah. And so that's the tricky parts. The judge low-key won the case for us by keeping out the appropriate evidence. But, we are a forgiving people. We are a loving people.
We are.
Woo!
I say that all the time. We give so much grace.
And it's because we're good. We are good people, okay? We're just good people. And I do think that there is the fear that I think a lot of people, white people who don't like Black people have is that we're going to do to them what they did to us.
Right,
and we're not even trying. That's not even what we're after.
Them.
Yeah. There's a meme going around that says, they get afraid when they hear Black power because for them, white power always meant, Black subjugation. So they think when we say Black power, that means white subjugation. It's like we're not even thinking about y'all.
Right. We're trying to just live our life.
We're just trying to live.
Period.
And be joyful.
We got this. We want to protect us, and that's really what the whole movement is about now. It's like, you know what? You're right. I should run for city council, not me, but you. Right. We should take over all the legal apparatus. That's what grassroots law, the project that started, is about. It's about empowering people to take over things like the city budget and stop giving so much money to militarized police officers to kill us. Like we've been saying for years, y'all killing us with our tax dollars. Okay, we'll stop.
Right. Yeah. I just saw, and you live in McKinney with me, and we got LaShadion did that exact same thing when he went and ran for city council because he was not thinking about that before, but he decided to use his voice, in a different way. And they just put out this.
And I'm gonna tell you something. I'll drop it to you. I just hired LaShadion to work for grassroots law.
You did?
For that same reason. Yeah.
Our kids ran track together. That's how I met him originally. And then when all that stuff happened in McKinney with the police and that 15-year-old girl who we knew indirectly, it was like so much outrage. Everybody. I was at city council meetings a lot back then too. I need to get better there with attending the meetings. But like they just sent this thing in our impact little newsletter they send out every month with the 8 can't wait, and they're talking about like different things. I guess the criteria, things that we've done, like ban chokeholds and strangleholds, strangleholds, require de-escalation. They don't require warning before shooting. We don't. Let me see. They require,
which is crazy, by the way.
Right. They don't require warning before shooting. It said in many instances this is not possible. Shooting is to be used only as a response to immediate threat to the life of the officer or a third party.
So require it when it's possible, right?
Right.
And state the facts when it's not possible, right? So like state why it wasn't possible.
Be clear.
Yeah.
Exactly. So there are things
make it a requirement with exceptions. Don't just say it's not a requirement, which is crazy.
And this is making me like a lot more aware, because I'm looking like, okay, like you just said, like if they're using our money, what are they using it for? What do we need to be voting against or calling calling them to task on saying, no, that's not good enough. Like, we need to do something different.
And Darius Tarver is a perfect case out of the Metroplex. His dad lives here in McKinney. He goes to some of our churches. We know Darius and them, right? And
Right.
Darius' son was Darius' dad, Kevin Tarver, was a police reformist. He is a chaplain in the McKinney PD, right? And he's been working with them about stopping things like chokeholds. He started working with them shortly after the McKinney pool party incident, or actually shortly before it, right? And started trying to reform it from within. And, you know, probably bumped heads with people like me back then, because I didn't think he was going far enough. I thought he was a little too nice about it, right? And his son was training to be a police officer, right? Went to UNT Denton.
Yeah, I saw that.
Fourth year, he was graduating that year. He was going to go be a police officer, right? To be the solution that we're all looking for, right? To take over the system. And they killed him. He got in a car accident. He banged his head. He was having hallucinations. He was, you know, out of it, and scared his white roommate, and not to knock his roommate, but scared him reasonably. He's carrying a machete and a pen and smashing things out, like light sockets out, because the light is bothering his eyes. So it's a scary situation, but it's clearly a mental health crisis. It's not. Right. He's not trying to kill anybody. He's talking to you about God and things like that. All right, call the cops. Cops show up 4 deep, 4 of the best trained officers. They know exactly what they're walking into, right? They see him. They know he's holding a machete. He's holding or a kitchen knife, and he's holding a frying pan. So you know, drop the pan. If he doesn't comply, first thing you want to evaluate is that this kid is clearly a mental health issue. So he might lash out at him or back up, give him space, speak softly, because you should have specific training about dealing with people with mental health. They saw him as just another nigga, right?
Yep.
Okay, this drugged out dude with this knife. Do we have legal authority to shoot him under our training? Yes. Okay. And they kept calling it out. This is a trained operation. It's a militarized style policing that we pay for, right? You got lethal authority? Yeah, you're gonna shoot him. I'm gonna shoot him. All right, boom, bow, tase him first, drops the knife. I'm sorry, tell it like a story, but tase him first, drops the knife. We're gonna be sharing about this all week, so you'll see it. But they tase him first, drop the knife. I think they shoot him at the same time when they tase him. He drops to the ground. He's obviously in pain. They kick the machete away. This is their opportunity to get on top of him and arrest him. They don't. They just let him wallow a little bit. Then he gets up and limps over to the pan and picks up the pan. And there's 4 of them. He's already been tased. He's already been shot. He's literally, you could blow him over with a feather and they shoot him 2 more times.
Oh my gosh.
And this was our future police chief, right? He was training to be our future police, you know, and militarized policing. And this was a story that the current Black police chief of Denton said completely justifiable. You know, that's what they're trained to do.
And we've seen these videos online where people literally swing it. The guy with the axe, that one that went viral. I mean, they're doing all that and nothing. But it's really, it's so much.
Ooh, it is a lot. So, Lee, you talked about movement. So I know we have the Black Lives Matter. So being that that's the outcry globally, right? It seems to be that it's important to call out specific affinity groups within the Black community, such as trans, gay, and disabled, and to say her name. So why do you feel it's so important for us to say the names of the women who have also been victims of police brutality?
Because they get the leftovers of everything we talked about. And I've said this before. Like, you know, I unfortunately represent a lot of families. And it's unfortunate that we get people zealous only about men, right? A Tatiana Jefferson should be, I mean, it is a huge tragedy.
That could be me. That could have been me.
Episode about this.
I literally was like, that could be me and my sons playing video games, you know?
And the excuses that they normally have for why her case wasn't as big as everybody else's case is not there. There's a video. It was immediately released. They had the world's attention. You know, I happened to have built up a following. It was right after the Botham Jean's case. I was involved in the case. Everybody saw it. Everybody saw it. Right? Why wasn't that our George Floyd moment? Why did we have to wait to George Floyd?
I agree.
Right? I don't understand why Jordan Edwards wasn't our George Floyd moment, mind you.
The guy.
Tell
Because
us about his. Tell us about his. A little bit about Jordan Edwards.
whew, I don't know if I have the emotional energy.
Okay, don't. Look, don't.
I know what was the young gentleman in Mesquite who was at a party, and he was leaving the party with his brothers, going back home, and the police saw them scattering and leaving, and he shot him with a shotgun from behind. Yep, it was in Balk Springs. I can't remember.
Balk Springs.
Yep. And it seems as though we're having there are so many cases, Lee, and like you said, where is the status of Tatiana Jefferson? How do people like myself stay up to date with what's going on, or how can we help?
Follow a Tatiana Project. That's her sisters who started a movement, the Tatiana Project, and they're helping. And when we start talking about grassroots taking back over our communities, they're helping with the push for defund the police. And they're looking for those governmental resources to get pushed back into the community where Tatiana lived with her nephew Zion, where they were playing video games, and create gaming centers for other kids. And so the Tatiana Project is a grassroots project that we're backing. So, we're helping to facilitate whatever they need. But my firm belief is that women like Tamika, women like Breonna's lawyer, Lanita Baker, they are the solution, right? So just all we need to do is lift up their voices, right? And so in each of these cases, like Wanda Cooper, I think that she is it's not me. If I can elevate Wanda Cooper's voice, she is so smart, so shrewd, so composed. She's going to get justice for her son and try to figure out how to get justice for everybody else because she's that sharp, and so that's what I get the benefit of doing. There's so many women. When we look at Jackie Craig was one of the women. She's our Rosa Parks. She started this whole and nobody really even knows her name now. Her video went viral a while back, and we started talking about police violence again nationally. And her neighbor had choked her son. Right.
I remember that. Was that Fort Worth?
Fort Worth, right?
Yeah, I remember that one.
Her neighbor had choked her son. She didn't let Ray beat up the neighbor. She said she's gonna call the cops. The cop came and said, "Well, why don't you teach your son not to litter?"
That was crazy.
And she's like, "What? I just said he attacked my 8-year-old son. He physically assaulted my 8-year-old son. And you're telling me to tell him not to litter on tape? You don't even care you're being recorded? Nope. Shut up, or I'm taking you to jail too." Right?
And the daughter. And the daughter.
Yeah. And the teenage girls brutalized him, pulled out his taser. We were afraid that he was going to shoot him. Didn't shoot him. But man, they killed a lot. They killed enough people in Fort Worth. That could have easily been a mom trying to help her son.
And you recently went to the White House. You brought, what was it, 9 families of 9 victims that were, victims of police brutality or racially motivated killings, things like that. And when the president signed this executive order that looked nothing like the George Floyd police reform bill that the Democrats had kind of put forth, it was pretty opposite of that. But what was beneficial about that meeting, and what's left to be done there? Because it feels like, I know you went there with the families. They got a chance to talk and tell their stories. What came out of that for them?
So the start is that it amplifies those mothers' voices. They want those communities. They want to speak for themselves. They don't want Biden to speak for them. They don't want Lee Merritt to speak for them. They don't want Trump to speak for them. They want to be heard on a national level. So we went to the White House and we went to Washington to amplify those families' voices. And we've been saying what you and I are talking about. This is actually a genocide. Right? This is something that you all should actually stop and consider. Like the coronavirus, it's not like a quick little cute little executive order. Right. That's why we're not joining you in the Rose Garden for that executive order. We want to talk to you about the more comprehensive thing. And so he put us in a room full of cops, right? Union leaders and things like that. And so, and I was like, that's fine. Because the families that I brought with them are mostly first responders. I told you Margarita Brooks' dad is a firefighter.
Right.
Darius Tarver's dad is a cop, right? The beautiful bodybuilder who was killed in the cell, Everett Palmer, big swole dude. Y'all remember him? Mm-hmm. Most people, unfortunately, remember people because of the aesthetic.
The name, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so, Black folks, you got to describe.
Right. And
but
so, his brother's a 30-year cop. He was a veteran. And so we went to those military men and talk about law and order and all that bullshit and said, y'all out of order. Like, y'all not following your own laws. Right. So y'all can't talk about law and order in the justice system when you all are actively interfering from it. And this is y'all telling on yourselves, right? These are other cops telling on y'all. And so, I mean, it's not going to get through to them. They felt bad enough to say everybody gets their own federal investigation, right? So all those regions, all those families are brought with them have federal agents moving in and investigating what happened in those particular shootings. What they'll find is that the cops murdered people and tried to cover it up. Right?
Now, if they find that they, because if they're doing these private, investigations, they will more than likely find out that that's the case, right? So how is that is that a precedence that could be set?
Well, you see it happening in Ahmaud Arbery's case, right? Because that family we had already been speaking to the White House. This is just the first time they got out that we were speaking to the White House. Right. I speak to the White House to get solutions for my family because that's my fucking job, right? And so they sent federal agents down there. You saw that, I can't actually say everything that happened, but people aren't happy about what's going on down there. And the federal government is wreaking havoc down there. And people are going to jail. You notice that people who are in jail are in jail in the Ahmaud Arbery case. So it's a band-aid to a greater solution. There's 1,000 Ahmaud Arbery's, right? And so when I say Ahmaud Arbery's, people are being murdered, and the murder being justified by the justice system in cases where they shouldn't have never been justified. And we see it happen over and over. I just described almost every case on earth, right? And so it's the criminalization of fill in the blank, criminalization of barbecuing, criminalization of sleeping in your bed, the criminalization of playing video games with your nephew, the criminalization
or eating ice cream.
It's really the criminalization of Blackness.
Yes.
I mean, that's the common thread, right? It's just our skin is our problem.
And so that's why, one of the speeches I'm giving, you've heard me giving is criminal is the new black. So they're saying criminal. Oh, don't worry about him. He's a criminal. Oh, don't worry about it. He's a criminal. What they mean is don't worry about it. He's black.
He's black.
Right? Or he or she's black. Because if they killed a white girl playing video games with her nephew, the world would stop and watch.
Oh.
When they killed the white girl in Minneapolis, and she had called the police. It was a black cop that killed her. Justine Diamond, right? That city, he went to jail, of course. Are you crazy? Of course he went to jail. And that city, the day after he went to jail, paid the family $20 million. The most ever paid in a police. They called it the worst police shooting ever. Why? Because they didn't kill somebody who was a criminal. They killed a white girl. Right?
Wow.
And she had white lawyers. And I had spoken to that family. They went out and got them white lawyers. When he said that it was the most, the worst police shooting ever, and at that moment he said because Black lives don't matter. Right?
Exactly.
That's basically what he was saying.
And that's really what we're
Brianna
saying.
still not.
I was gonna say that's what we're saying. Like, and it seems like it should be so simple, but it's not, because it's when we're saying that Black Lives Matter it's basically just saying because y'all are acting like they don't. Like we want them to. We're trying to make things happen so that we can see that.
And for the president to call that a terrorist organization, not only the president of the United States, but the president of the Texas Bar Association. Y'all wonder why I haven't joined the Texas Bar. I've been under some heat for not joining the Texas Bar. The president of the Texas Bar said that Black Lives Matter groups is a terrorist organization. Right? He's the person, this is our legal system again, sounding off. He was just recently elected, responsible for enforcing the rules of the bar, the same bar that tried to disbar me. Right?
I remember you had that going on.
And so Black Lives Matter is a terrorist organization. That's what we are to them.
That's what a lot of people are using that as an excuse to say, I don't like you saying Black Lives Matter, because they go and they're like, they're all about this and that. And I'm like, okay, if you go on their website, like if you just go in and you're not seeing anything that says,
none of that.
It's like literally all about unity. Everything there is about unity. So they keep on trying to use because you got the group, you got the movement, you got people who are just like, I'm just saying Black Lives Matter, and then you got the group.
But you forget that in their reality, in their world, in the world that they've been conditioned to live in, Black is in fact criminal. Yeah, right? Exactly. So when you say Black Lives Matter, you're saying criminal lives.
Yeah.
Right? And so they're just like, law and order, kill those criminals. Who cares what happens to a criminal? Who cares what happens to a Black person? And they don't know. I believe James Baldwin talked about it. I believe that they don't know they're saying it. James Baldwin said, these innocent people have no other hope. They are, in fact, still trapped in a history that they do not understand. Until they understand that history, they cannot be freed from it. Right?
Yes. Oh, my God.
Like, they've been conditioned to believe that about us. So much so that they can marry us and still not see it. Right?
And you know what? It's so real. I think even it's so deep because even within our community, like we have taken on that covering of their teaching. A lot of us don't even, it's like
they look at me like I'm crazy.
You lost, I mean, and I know that I didn't grow up in a place where I was learning, my history. I learned my history from my dad specifically because he was a militant Black man when I was growing up. But it wasn't because of my schooling. It wasn't something that I was like, oh, let me go hurry up and seek this out. So as I got older, I had to go get it myself. You had to learn this stuff. And if you're not trying to learn it, even whether you're Black, whether you're, white or anything else, if you just go off of what's here, you're going to be right there with everybody else thinking the same way.
Educated.
I had the benefit, and that's why I really think it starts with the kids. I had the benefit as a kid, for whatever reason, of all the gifts that I could have been given. I love to read. I read all the time. And so I learned stuff that they weren't teaching us. And then when I got to Morehouse, I was still embarrassed by how little I knew. Because it was like, I saw Frederick Douglass on the building. I had no idea who Frederick Douglass was or who Howard Thurman was or half the people on their buildings out there. Right. So I was like, all right. So I went and hid in the library, right? Because I was embarrassed, right? I hid in the library in the stacks and I learned about ancient civilizations. I learned about ancient cultures, about Blackness, about the richness of Black culture throughout that diaspora. And yeah, I think that's where it starts. I think once we realize how truly powerful we are, where we actually are in history, because in American culture, we still think our history starts with slavery, because that's what they teach us. Yeah, that's what they teach us. And then they say our issues were resolved after slavery with the Civil Rights Movement. And that was the end, right? Congratulations, you're an American. It's like, nah.
That was actually one of the questions that I was going to ask you. Like our kids are close in age. Me and Kim, we're always talking about the village, right? And how we got to take it. Lee is a person, he'll be like, it's New Year's Eve. If y'all want to go out, bring the kids over here and whatever. Like, he's that dude, right? And I'll be like, you gonna have a lot of kids at your house? I'm not the one. But yeah, so, but how are you teaching your kids? So how are you doing that with your kids? Like, how are you teaching them that they see you out here working and doing all this? Like, what's your method as far as like how to teach your kids at their age? Like,
I just try to meet them.
Especially children, I would say, that live in the suburbs, because I'm from Chicago. So I went to school with 99% Black. So we knew our history to a certain extent. But now living out here, my daughter, I had to be very intentional about her learning her history.
Well, here's the scary thing. My kids are getting an inner city experience in a suburban reality. The inner city experience says white people are dangerous, particularly white cops, and stay away from them because they might hurt you, right? Among other things that inner city kids are taught to be afraid of or to avoid, like gangs and drugs and other things, right? And so I try to shield my daughter from the reality of the inner city issues that I face in my practice, right? Because I'd like to think that no one's going to come to our house and shoot her, but it's actually not beyond the scope of reality, right?
Yeah.
Because she plays with Zion, right? Tatiana's nephew. They're friends. And her reality is my friend's auntie was shot in front of him, right? And that's scary, right?
Yeah.
And people want to kind of kill my dad. I get that people don't like him. And that's scary, right? For an 8-year-old. So I have to just talk to them about it in reality. Like that's when I give speeches, I say, this isn't a theory for me. This is my lived experience, right? They are constantly, the system is constantly trying to kill or incarcerate me, right? Like,
right.
I live that reality. Like, there's literal groups planning it, right? And then there's the political groups who are saying, I had the chief of police of Arlington tell me that he would see me in jail if it was the last thing he did. That's an actual, police chief, right? And it's like, is that how you threaten political opponents? Is that what you say to your white opponents? I don't think so. I think that you don't think that my life matters. And I'm a national civil rights lawyer.
Right.
Oh my God.
Fighting for families that are being affected by this, it's we cannot talk about these isolated incidences, anymore. Like, it's not like, oh, that was a bad cop over here or that over there. This is a real system, I mean, and it's all over. It's all over. It's not just one place.
And that's the biggest excuse. The idea is that, this is an infrequent thing that the liberal media is blowing up to control. This is what the Republicans are saying. The liberal media is blowing it up to control the Black vote, to scare them into obedience, right? Here's the problem. The Democratic left is not helping us with this problem either. It's not political for us at all. It's just our reality, right? And so we're not running to the Democrats. We're not running away from Trump. We are, because he's part of the ones killing us. But unfortunately, when Obama was in office, these local cops were still killing us anyway.
Right.
And there was very little he could do from his federal bench to change that, besides actually changing the laws, which he didn't do. We're still trying to do. Love to Obama, but I wish he would speak out about this particular issue, about the change in the specific law, Section 242, that Kamala now is championing. Kamala Harris, who hopefully is the VP, because she's saying the right things now. She hasn't always done the right things, but who knows what she had to do in the system to get where she was.
Right. And I think too that we're getting in a place where it wasn't, even when Obama, right? It was like he was trying so hard not to say, be the Black president. It's like, be the Black president, okay?
Right.
And we wanted him to be like, yeah, we got somebody in there now, our cousin in there. You gonna hook us up, you know what I'm saying? And it was like, oh, but it ain't really like you're trying to get in good for a while. And it's like, now I think we're in a different time. Like this right now, everything. I'm talking to my CEO at my company. Like, that would have never happened as far as like talking about these racial things and how we're going to change our hiring practices and things. And listen, it's a conversation, right?
It's a different conversation. I'm used to speaking to racist DAs and mayors and things like that. And this is getting into people, because I know part of the community was mad at me for going to the White House. I said, I can go to the White House and talk about these issues that neither side can articulate for us. Like, can point out the contradictions and then say how the law needs to change. I can do that, right? Why wouldn't I do that? Are you crazy?
You got to have somebody have a seat at the table. Regardless, it's not about a photo op or like I'm trying to be friends with Trump or whatever. It's I want to be there so I
want to be the change.
Be representing. I'm representing us. That's what you were doing. Like, you're out here like, I'm speaking. Someone at the table that can say. Because I saw, a lot of that hearing, and you were talking. I'm like, this is stuff that you have not heard at any of these hearings, like breaking down what qualified immunity is doing, all that stuff that I'm like, I didn't even know like some of this stuff. So we need that. We need you to keep doing that, because, thank God for you, because I'm like, you got like you're like the perfect mix of all the things. Like, you got the inner city, experience. You got the HBCU, experience. You got the legal knowledge, the passion clearly, because everybody's not trying to do civil rights law.
Sure. It doesn't pay well. You know that because you know me. I was like, hey, can I borrow $5? I'm doing all right now.
So Lee, you talked about the justice system. If we could reimagine policing and mass incarceration in this country, what would that look like?
All right. So I think the quickest thing, the most immediate thing that we need to do is remove militarized police forces from our cities, particularly our inner cities. There is a war going on, right? It's not a hypothetical war. It's not hyperbole. There's an actual war that was declared 30 years ago or 40 years ago or so by the Nixon administration, redoubled by the Reagan administration, specifically a war on drugs. But they said, according to their words, that it was a euphemism. It was a war on Black people to suppress their vote.
Say no to drugs.
Yeah. And it's not, this is not a conspiracy theory. Like, Sister Ava DuVernay did an excellent job in 13th Amendment of laying it all out. There's actual evidence for this. And if you haven't, looked at that, then go read. Or if you weren't convinced by that, then go read Slavery by Another Name or
The New Jim Crow.
The New Jim Crow, right? Studying the teachings of Michelle Alexander. These aren't theories, this is mathematical facts, right? Mm-hmm. So if this war is going on, and that these police forces are being used to instigate this war, robbing people, killing people, hiding evidence, none of this is a surprise to anybody. Selling organs, none of it is a surprise to anybody. They've been caught red-handed doing these things over and over and over again in the war. Like, that's why I went to the White House, right? It was like, do you acknowledge that this war is happening? Why not say just end the war?
Because he declared it, though. Remember when the coronavirus first happened, Trump came up randomly saying we're going back to, this war on drugs. They sent some folks down to Mexico and all this stuff. And it was like, it was a blip. And then we went back into other stuff like we forgot about that.
Because it was politically expedient for him for the border crisis to talk about the war on drugs and claim that these people are bringing in drugs across the border, which is the least frequent way of bringing in drugs. Typically, it's going to be by plane because it's coming from Nicaragua and places that enjoy Trump. But anyway, so let's start with, can we all say we want to end to the war on drugs? Can't we agree on that? Well, not so much. Biden said it in his platform. I'm on his platform committee because I'm Team Bernie, right? And so we're helping to merge Team Bernie and Team Biden. Okay. But he's not into ending qualified immunity. He's not into legalizing marijuana. He's not into anything that we need done. He looks a lot like Trump in his criminal justice policy. He's using the right language. And I say that, like, we talk about reimagining policing. It says it in there. And I was like, I said that first. And it's still my language. So, they're quoting some of the very things that I'm saying. Maybe other people, I'm sure it's us reading Michelle Alexander, all reading the same sources and things like that. But they're saying the right things. But when you get into the actual policies, nothing changes. And they want us to vehemently support that so that Trump doesn't win. And I'm like, hold on, can we change this? Like, I got some Republicans, if you listen to me at the U.S. Senate, I got some Republicans talking about ending qualified immunity. They were with it, And so why can't our Democratic candidate? All right, so anyway, we can do it locally. We can do it with our budget locally. We can say we're not sending that much money to the narcotics division of the police department. If you want your police department to survive, you're gonna have to lay the narcotics division off and hire some nurses. Go in there with some trained nurses who deal with drug addiction. Instead of shooting the drug user, treat them, right?
Right. That's what normal people, they go to rehab or whatever, right?
It's not a complicated thing to do. We don't have to wait till next year to do it. We don't have to wait till November. We can go to our city council and say, can we have an emergency hearing right now? End the fucking war on drugs. Right now. Stop killing us behind your stupid war on drugs. Because they killed Tatiana Jefferson behind the war on drugs. Because they sent in those militarized police, police. They killed Pamela Turner behind the war on drugs. They killed Jordan Edwards behind the war on drugs. They killed Botham Jean behind the war on drugs, and they tried to blame drugs on him for the reason for his murder when they said that he had weed in his apartment. Right?
Lee, how many times have you seen the police in your neighborhood? In your actual subdivision?
Yeah. So once
I am not seeing.
Once, and they scared the hell out of me. They brought my daughter a book. And my daughter was scared. They didn't even realize that we have a different relationship with her.
Right.
And so she was nice enough to bring my daughter a book. And I'm like, all right, well, thank you. We're going to get back to you, though.
Right. Right. Thanks. I brought my sons with me to the McKinney police had this thing a while back where they were trying to connect with the community and everything at one of the community centers. And we're walking in and the cops were like, hi, to my sons. And they're like, Like,
Yep.
hi, like,
I know
they
your son.
are like, you know what I'm saying?
And
Because
the thing is, and
it's the
yeah,
relationship.
yeah. And I was at the George Floyd funeral, and my kids feel the same way. It's like when they see a gun, they think, man, you one of them people, bad people with a gun.
Mm-hmm.
What stops you from killing me right now?
Right.
It's actually terrifying, right? And so you can't show up and they don't even get it. Like, if you want to be friendly with me, if you want to join a protest and show me how much you care, leave your gun at home.
Mm-hmm.
Just leave it home. I mean, are you allowed to do that?
But you think about the kids and their psychology around all of this stuff, right? It's like growing up, you were taught, like, go to a cop if you need help. You know, like, I literally, my game plan with my kid, I'm like, if anything ever happens, y'all got, you know, call Nana or come right here next door. We got a couple neighbors right here that they know. Like, you go there. Let them deal with the stuff, right? Like, don't try to call the police. I don't care what's going on.
No,
which is
no,
just sad.
I couldn't imagine calling the police. I'm in an emergency situation. I need a hyped up white guy with a gun. No,
Yep.
That's not even the first thing that comes to mind for me.
Me either.
With all of this said, now we just got to talk about the kids and how it's affecting them. Okay, now you're literally involved in every case possible, almost, it seems. What are you doing for yourself? What is self-care looking like? We care about self-care here, okay? Our podcast, we talk about self-care, we talk about personal development, we talk about all these things. What are you can't do this fight when you're not taking care of yourself. I'm saying this because I'm looking at you like, I already know you ain't doing what you're supposed to do. But what are you doing or planning to do to, like, help?
I'm intentionally thinking about. I'm intentionally thinking about seeking therapy because I deal with a lot of dead bodies. And I get very close to them, as I ought to. I think you can't really do your job without getting close to the memories of people killed and getting close or proximate to people's hurt. And every one of the families that I serve are in need of therapy. And that most admit it, some don't, but they're traumatized, they're PTSD.
Yeah.
Their kids are PTSD. And if I deal with a lot of their kids because I used to be an educator, and when they have an issue with some of their kids, they send them to me. I love kids. I love being around kids, and you know that, right? Because I hang out with your kids, right? and when you say that, like, my ideal of a dope New Year's is watch kids, right? And so
so we gotta get you connected with a therapist.
So they all need therapists, right? And I need therapists because I'm absorbent. I'm an empath. I absorb a lot of that.
And then watching those videos and stuff, Lee, like, literally, I can't even watch half of the stuff because I'm like, I'm traumatized and I'm not even connected to the family. So I get so zapped. And that's why y'all don't see me around like that. Because, I used to hang out. I used to throw parties, right? And I love being around people, but these are the only people I'm around. Yeah. Wow. And especially now with this coronavirus and all that stuff, and you're protecting yourself, right? Because you've been out and flying and doing all that. You're doing all your
yeah. I'm healthy and quarantined, but I'm used to being quarantined.
Right. Look, I said I'm not changing. I'm staying just like this. When everything go back, I'm good. This is great for me. What else? What can we do for you? What are things that you need us as a village to be doing to support the work that you're doing?
Grassroots Law Project. So the Grassroots Law Project is my transition from my practice, because I'm growing my practice, thank God, so much that I have a lot of really smart attorneys working.
Yeah.
People that I trust to handle these cases the right way. Now, I just had a conversation with them yesterday, because as they churn out these cases and I get a bunch of new cases, my style has always been criminal accountability first, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm hearing about my name associated with cases that I don't actually know about. And there's excellent evidence for civil liability. Like, we can sue, right? Or we believe there's evidence of civil liability, but it's not translating to the district attorney's office and putting pressure on them to take that evidence and file criminal charges. Again, most people don't understand how the system works. Mm-hmm. So people get involved, right? Activists get involved, and they go after the police chief, for example. Police chief can't do nothing for you, right? Right. Police chief is just doing his militarized job, protecting his office.
That is right. The person that we need to be.
It's the DA. And some people mistakenly believe that if I get involved in the case, well, I hope rightfully believe that if I get involved in the case, the DA gets the green light. They should probably do something, because I always want my office to say, all right, take all the evidence, run a parallel investigation with the state, and expose on Instagram, on Facebook, or on cable the crimes that took place and the culprits who should be held accountable.
Yeah. So we need to be knowing who our DAs are, you know, all over. Make sure we're participating in those votes and city council meetings.
And school council meetings, because you made a good point. You said it starts at school too.
Man, it's so much that needs to change. I'm like, what are we going to do? I was telling her about, you know, like now we got the kids. What are you doing with your kids with this starting school back in fall?
Oh, yeah.
I ain't sending my kids to nobody's building.
Me either. Me either. I was like,
yeah, nah. I guess we'll figure out some homeschooling thing.
Yeah.
Here's the thing: I have resources for it, and that's not fair to all the people who don't have the resources for it. It is extremely unfair to send the poorest kids to the least sanitary schools with the least paid staffs.
Yeah.
It's not okay.
Yeah. Well, we support you. We're gonna, you know, rally all our folks to, you know, pay attention to what's going on, making sure we're participating as much as possible. I feel like everybody, we talked about this earlier, like we all have a place in this, right? We got people that's out there ready to just be on the front lines, literally, you know, protesting and all that. We got people who
we need that. Listen, don't y'all stop protesting. I'm gonna tell you that, because it is y'all protesting individually in each city. Small protests, big protests, creative protests, you know, children's protests. It is the protesting that got us into the White House. It's the protesting that got us into the Senate. Because y'all know I've been doing this.
Yeah, each thing matters.
Like, why wasn't Jordan Edwards the George Floyd?
Right.
It was the protest.
Yeah, it was the protest.
We need that. Well, we appreciate you, Lee.
Yes,
we're going to have people follow the Grassroots Project. And any other things you want people to know to follow you anywhere? Yeah,
the Grassroots Law Project and the Tatiana Project in the DFW area. You know, Lee Merritt, ESQ. Got you know, a lot of informative projects coming up. I'm working with Rock Nation to come up with a podcast that will be informative. I'm working with some major networks, I'll just say that, to come up with a TV show that would highlight the work. And so, you know, as that
in a book,
yeah,
I know. I was thinking that.
Yeah,
he got the writing skills.
I really want to write a book. It's just so time consuming, and I'm unlike a lot of the dope academics like Mark Lamont Hill, for example, who are putting out information. My boy Bakari Sellers was putting out information about our generation's experience in this movement, and you should check out both those books. My role in it is less commentary, more like actively involved, and so I couldn't stop. Even Sean, my boy Sean, dropped a book that you all should check out.
I just started buying some books. I bought actually from Mark Lamont Hill. He has an online bookstore. So I was like, I'm going to go there instead of Amazon. I'm trying to be more cautious of buying Black. So his book is one of them. Bakari's book is on the way somewhere.
I just found out Harvey for TMZ told me I'm in Bakari's book. I had to call Bakari.
Oh, are you?
What? Me and Bakari ran against each other for SGA president. And I know he didn't tell the whole story. But I'm watching you, Bakari.
You only got one side. You got to tell your side.
I was eliminated for illegal campaign, essentially. I had took over a building, and it was like, this is too much, and I got kicked out. And then he took the lead. And then I used my lawyers, because I was the class justice, to get back in the race, but it was too late. It stole the momentum.
Wow.
See? Y'all are meeting now. Look, now you guys still in the same fight, right?
I got more followers. No, I'm just kidding. Me and him is in a constant conversation. No, I'm just kidding. That's my boy. We talk. As you know.
Everybody's working together for that same goal, right?
Exactly.
So, but no, we thank you for your efforts and your work that you're doing, and thanks for joining the Bold Black Girls today.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
We enjoyed your interview.
Yes.
Okay.
That was a very
informative, enlightening, and amazing interview.
Yes, it was. I learned so much just listening.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the call to actions. Listen, go to your local council meetings,
school board meetings, city council. All that.
Listen and be active, but listen because you want to hear what they're saying.
Mm-hmm. Listen to what kind of conversations are going on, what things are being decided on, what's money going to, the budget. I mean, it goes even into your from the HOA to the, where these dollars that you're paying, when you pay money for something, you should be knowing where it's going. And I'm just now really kind of taking it as a priority, of being like, okay, you know what? If I'm paying this, what am I getting for it? Right? We're just paying for stuff that we're not getting a return on, right? That's the public schools, your city that you live in, all these taxes that we're paying, these people that we voted in and not held them accountable to the things that they said they were going to do when they were campaigning.
Yep.
Pretty much everything. Anything that you're so I would definitely say we need to be listening and participating.
Absolutely.
Right?
Active participation because they need us, right?
Yep.
Another thing that I would say was that is an ongoing theme is education.
Yeah.
Educating ourselves on our history as well as the systems that were put in place that are still in place that impact us.
Yes. Everything. I mean, it comes down to from the beginning with the founding fathers and what they put in place and why they needed to put amendments in place, right? A lot of this stuff is affecting our everyday life and you don't even realize it based on laws and, things that were created. So yeah, education is key.
And I would also say another important item that I would say was a great takeaway from our conversation is vote. Vote and also serve as if you get called for it to be on a jury.
Yes.
Take it seriously because you could be the voice that convicts someone that needs to be convicted. Such as a cop.
Yes, if something happened to me, I want y'all on I want you to be a part of my jury, of my peers, right? If we're all trying to get out of it, then I don't have anybody like me there that understands my life, or understands my plight, right? So let's try to participate in the process.
Yeah, and I think many times a lot of people don't want to serve jury. It's an honor. What case is this? Let me be informed.
They might not let you in there because you be like, okay, and who exactly what? They're like, she too into it. She gonna be worried. So yeah, I think we need to get in touch and actually, get to know these people locally that we, that are serving us and let them know you're there. I feel like it's a big difference with when I'm dealing with my kids' school, when I'm writing letters and all that. They know me. So when they see my name coming across to me, they know, okay, she's not going to just
AWW, Aries Webb-Williams. Here she is.
Oh, Lord. Here she comes with her letters and her points and action items. We get off the phone. I'm like, to recap the conversation, you said that you're going to do X, Y, and Z by this date. I am going to do this, and we will follow up. And then I come back, and I'm following up. We need to do the same thing with these people we voting for.
Accountability.
Yep.
That is the key. And then I would say the last part of our call to action, and I want to say Lee had touched on this a little bit.
Protesting.
Yes. So he said that we must continue to protest because that is what got them into the White House. So I know there are people who love to protest. Keep doing it. Yeah. And those people who want to support them, keep doing it. We all have a place, right? You could be that person that is bringing water or donating to the people who might get locked up,
helping them get out of jail, people who have legal skills, helping them, and financing that.
Because that was a very good point. Reason stating there have been many other cases before George Floyd.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what has been the difference between the George Floyd and every other? And when he said protesting, I'm like, wow.
And there were a lot of little protests that happened before. But I felt like it was
this was on a global level.
Collective, yeah.
This was global.
Yeah.
Worldwide. Outside the 50 states.
That's what the no justice, no peace really means. It means, no, we're going to stay in your face and we're requiring you to do something.
What is it? That's accountability.
Mm-hmm. It's important. So there's your call to action. You can go to our website, and we do have some books and resources we're starting to list. So we will tag some things if you just want to start reading. I've been reading about African civilization. I got some new books coming. I've been supporting Black business a lot more. I think that's another thing. I've been trying to, like, when I buy books, I'm online. Yeah, like physical books. I'm like, let me find a Black bookstore that has an online, platform. Then I'll go there and buy it. Just trying to be more aware of how I can support, because I feel like Black businesses are not getting the support that they need with a lot of things, and having to shut down. So yes, thank you guys again. Please rate and review the episode and share with a friend, subscribe, all that good stuff. Check out our website, sign up for our newsletter, and get your Bo Black Girl t-shirt. I have one on.
Love it.
And we will see y'all next week. Have a bold week. See you later.
Peace.